Welcome. Tonight we will journey far back in time to a land where the sun rose over golden sands and fell behind ancient rivers, feeding a civilization both majestic and demanding, ancient Egypt. But this is not the story of pharaohs and pyramids alone. No, tonight we explore a quieter path, one less gilded, one buried beneath centuries of sand and silence. This is the story of how ancient Egyptians really lived. And not just the rulers and priests, but the men and women who labored in the fields, scratched meaning into clay. Tablets chanted prayers in temples and struggled to provide for their families. Beneath the ever-watchful eye of the Nile, you may have heard of the glories of Egypt, the grandeur of tombs, the wisdom of scribes, the mysteries of rituals. But have you ever wondered what life was truly like for the many, not the few? Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts quiet. Imagine yourself in the desert warmth, where the world moved to the rhythm of floods and harvests, of birth and duty, of sand and stone. We begin, as many lives once did, with the uncelebrated and difficult role of a peasant. Segment 1. Why I dissect to be a peasant in ancient Egypt. Imagine yourself waking not in a palace, but on a mat of woven reeds, the faint scent of smoke from last night's cooking fire still lingering in the air. The sky outside is not yet bright, but already you are awake. You must be, because life for a peasant in ancient Egypt does not pause for comfort. You live in a simple home, a rectangular structure made of sun-baked mud bricks, its walls dusty and rough to the touch. The roof is flat, sometimes used for sleeping on warm nights. There is no glass in the windows, no doors that lock. Just woven reeds or cloth to keep the insects at bay. The floor beneath your feet is dry and compacted, swept clean with a bundle of palm fronds. There is no luxury here, only necessity. Your day begins early because the heat, like the taxes, is relentless. Outside, the village is slowly stirring. Children begin to gather kindling. Women knead bread from emmer wheat, rough and gritty to chew, mixing it with water drawn from the canal. Men ready their baskets and tools. The life of a peasant is built around the Nile, its generosity and its indifference. You are not quite a farmer as we think of it today. You are more accurately a laborer of the state. Much of what you grow is not for your own family, but for the granaries of the temples, for the noble estates, and of course, for the pharaoh. Each year, when the inundation comes, that is, when the Nile floods its banks and recedes, you wait and watch and hope. Because if the flood is too weak, your crops will fail. And if it is too strong, your home might vanish beneath the muddy water. Once the waters settle, the work begins. The land, thick with silt, must be reshaped by hand. There are no plows here as we might know them, only simple wooden tools and teams of oxen. You work with your hands, your back, your sweat. Harvesting is no less grueling. Wheat must be cut with flint blades, stalk by stalk, bundled and threshed by foot. The chaff rises into the air like dust and clings to your skin. There's little time to rest, because next comes tax season. Taxation in ancient Egypt is paid in grain, and the tax collectors do not delay. They arrive with scales and scribes and a calm but unyielding demeanor. If you fail to meet your quota, well, your options are limited. Debts can lead to land forfeiture, sometimes to servitude. In worst cases, beatings or imprisonment, not as spectacle, but as quiet, cold bureaucracy. And yet, this is your life, and your father's life. And your father's fathers. Children are born into this rhythm. Boys help in the fields. Girls fetch water, prepare food, and carry younger siblings on their hips. Marriage comes early and often without ceremony. You eat what you grow, though never in abundance. A meal may consist of bread, onions, lentils, and sometimes, if fortune allows, dried fish or goat's milk. Fruits, when available, offer moments of sweetness in a diet ruled by monotony. There are few diversions. Occasionally, Music may echo through the village, a flute or a lute, or the soft beat of a hand drum. Stories are shared around firelight, and the gods always are close. You pray to them, not in temples, which are reserved for priests, but with offerings of incense and words passed from generation to generation. You ask them for rain, for health, for mercy. Disease is constant, flies are relentless. And if a child becomes sick, your remedies are limited to herbs, chants, and hope. Still, there is beauty in this life, even among hardship. You know the stars above you. You feel the land shift beneath your feet. You understand the river's moods. You live by its cycles, its pulses. And when you die, as all must, you hope your life force, is nourished, that your body is buried with care, that the gods take notice of your humble service. So many lives were lived this way, without name, without record, without monuments, but they mattered. Their labor built the pyramids, fed the nobles, and gave rhythm to a civilization that would stand for millennia. They were the silent engine of Egypt, and though we do not know their names, we can feel their presence. In the cracks of ancient bricks, in the brush of wind across reed marshes, and in the worn handles of flint sickles left behind. Let us now leave the fields and enter another world, one where ink, not sweat, earned one's place in history. Whenever you're ready, we'll continue with the life of an Egyptian scribe, a man of letters in a world ruled by symbols. Segment 2, the life of an ancient Egyptian scribe. Now, gently shift your mind from the dust of the fields to a quieter corner of ancient society. The reed pens are being trimmed, the inkstones moistened with dark pigment. You are no longer among laborers, but among the literate few, a world of scrolls, symbols, and silent concentration. Imagine yourself sitting cross-legged on a smooth limestone floor. A low writing board rests across your knees. In one hand, you hold a delicate reed pen. In the other, a palette of black and red ink, the tools of your trade. You are a scribe, and in Egypt, that means you are part of something both rare and powerful. In a society where most could not read or write, literacy was a gateway to elevated status, not luxurious, perhaps, but respected. Scribes were essential. They kept the state running. They recorded taxes, harvests, births, prayers, and laws. In this world of monumental temples and sprawling estates, nothing was official until it was written down. But the road to becoming a scribe was long. Your training likely began as a child, perhaps in a temple school or a scribal house attached to a government office. You would have studied the script known as hieratic, a more cursive, practical form of hieroglyphs used for everyday documents. It is a script both beautiful and maddeningly complex. You practiced on limestone flakes or on discarded shards of pottery called ostraca. Your early exercises a repetition of lists, names of birds, tools, gods, and professions. Over time, your hand would learn the flow of the characters. Your mind would grow disciplined, patient. There is little room for error. One mistaken mark might change the meaning of an entire record. So you train endlessly under the stern guidance of a senior scribe. You memorize religious texts, royal decrees, and tax formulas. You copy phrases over and over, learning to write not only clearly, but with grace. It is not glamorous work. And though you do not sweat in the fields, your body is not spared. You spend long hours in hunched positions. Your joints ache. Your eyes grow tired in the dim, flickering light of oil lamps. Some scribes suffer from chronic wrist pain. Others develop stiff backs, poor eyesight, and repetitive strain injuries from years of delicate strokes. Still, the rewards are many. You wear a simple linen kilt, perhaps cleaner than that of a laborer. You carry your writing kit with care, a sign of your station. You may live in modest comfort, possibly attached to a noble estate or temple. As a scribe, you are not a priest, but you may work with them, especially if you serve in a temple. You copy sacred texts, transcribe hymns, record offerings. In state service, you might accompany tax assessors or oversee the counting of grain in storage halls. You may even travel with expeditions, recording supplies, fines, and correspondence. Some scribes, the most skilled, are employed by the pharaoh himself, their words shaping law, tribute, diplomacy. The scribe's craft is both an art and a discipline. You do not write freely. You copy. You formalize. You preserve. Creativity is not your task. Accuracy is. The script is sacred. The word is endearing. And yet, in your private scrolls, in rare scraps preserved across centuries, we glimpse a voice. Sometimes dry wit, sometimes weary complaint. One ancient scribal text, used for student training, reads, "The farmer toils endlessly, his clothes are ragged. His children cry, but the scribe? The scribe sits in shade, his hands clean, his stomach full." Perhaps it was meant to encourage you as a boy struggling with endless repetition. Perhaps it was a quiet boast. Still, you know that your ink-stained fingers carry weight. Your records shape history. Even now, thousands of years later, we know what we know because someone like you once dipped a reed into ink and pressed meaning onto papyrus. And that papyrus, rolled and stored carefully in wooden chests, outlived the voices of kings. So too does your labor, quiet, enduring. And as you lower your brush, stretch your spine, and extinguish your lamp for the night, you know that tomorrow the work begins again, orderly, exacting, and unseen. Now, let us turn our gaze away from the scribal office and step into shadows even older, stranger, and more enigmatic, and temples carved into stone, and rituals whispered in flickering torchlight. We will now explore the mysteries of ancient Egyptian spiritual practice, strange rites, and substances long lost to time.